What's up, you guys? I'm Janelle.
And I'm Ray.
And you're watching Baby Talk. We have Bentley here in the middle. You probably can't see him, but we are going to just talk about what's happening in our lives. This is Baby Talk number 10. And yeah.
Yeah, 10.
I'm feeling a little under the weather today, but we're still powering through.
I just realized I have a bunch of topics on my phone, which is now being used to record.
But you can check it real quick.
No, it's okay.
I did too. I can't remember them. Colposcopy for me.
I had a few ones. I kind of.
We wanted to do that thing where you ask about the lesson of the week or something.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
And the thing that like you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Okay, should we start off with that? Okay.
Yeah, we can start off with that.
Okay, so we're gonna try a couple different segments. The first one being lesson or what you're looking forward to.
Was it? What did we say? Wisdom of the week or something?
Yeah, wisdom of the week.
Yeah. So, yeah. What is something that you learned this week that, like, was like not like an eye opener, but something that like really spoke to you?
I think, well, I had a colposcopy this week. It was my second one. And the first one that I had, I was freaking out about it a lot. Mm-hmm. And I realized, like, going through it the second time around, didn't have, like, nearly as much anxiety. And the experience was very similar to the first one in terms of, like, the discomfort and stuff. So I just learned that there's not really any point in worrying about things. If anything, just, like, it's like easier said than done, but like try to just trust that you're in the hands of like good doctors and good people if you're, going through that journey. So, but yeah, I just learned to not sweat things too much. Of course, like do your research, but I feel like the fact that I went into this second experience, it made it a lot better. So
That's good.
How about you?
You know, it's funny because I always think that I'm going to prepare for these segments that I'm like thinking of. And
you don't know.
Now that you ask me and I'm in the hot seat, what is it that I learned this week that like really stood out to me? What I guess what I learned about myself is that I am very supportive. And like I knew that I was always, but it's like I want to drive you to your dance classes.
Oh yeah, that
I think we
too.
did like I drove you to like 4 dance classes or whatever. Mm-hmm. So 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. Like 6, I feel like
6 almost, yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like okay, cool. Well, I've reaffirmed that I'm always gonna support you.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, for context, I started. Beebs bought me an unlimited dance membership at a studio that I've been going to, and I've always like prayed for a partner like you in that like whenever I have a dance class, you take me and you wait for me and you pay for it, and that's just something I could only ever have dreamed of. Like growing up, my parents didn't even put that much effort into like my hobbies and stuff. So I'm really thankful, and you're the best supporter I could ever ask for. And it helps me just along my journey because I have no excuse to not show up to dance class because you're always taking me and you're waiting. So thank you.
And part of me is like so supportive and wants to drive you because I know that that's what you want. Mm-hmm. And then the other part of that is like, okay, I just want to help you on your journey. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, it was like reaffirmed. Mm-hmm. Like I will support you, which is good because I mean, the way that I'm supporting you right now is like how we'll support our future kids, you know? Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about. And it kind of paid off because the first week of doing this, I'm like I'm down 10 pounds from where I was last year, and I am closer to my goals now because I've been dancing. So
that's cool. So, so your wisdom was that you're back in dancing and you're once again becoming that version of yourself again.
That's one of it. Yeah, I think. Well, the initial one was just to not like spend too much time worrying on things because it's gonna happen regardless. But definitely, yeah, dance is. I guess to add on to that, I've been trying so hard to lose weight and like to do weights and to be in a caloric deficit, but it seems as if the thing that is the most fun for me and doesn't feel like I'm actually working out is what's working, which is taking dance class.
Yeah.
And listening to my body. So
yeah, that's true. And now you're feeling a little under the weather, huh?
yeah, but I think that's just because, yeah, life. But it's okay.
Yeah. Typically, like when people get sick, it's typically a sign from the universe to like slow down. Because if you think about what sickness actually does, it holds you back in the sense that there's certain things that you can't do.
Yeah.
And so maybe the universal symbol of why sickness happens is to, slow you down, because maybe you're not going too fast, but it, like, sicknesses typically are there to kind of like pump the brakes a little bit, just because you have a lot of momentum, and that momentum will still be there after you get better. In fact, it's also like maybe a test, because the thing is, like, everything in life is a test, right? So what if the reason you're feeling a little sick right now is because you've gained a lot of momentum, and the universe says, we're going to make you sick so you maybe can't do something for a day or two or whatever, and then have you recommit to what you've decided you wanted to do, like with dance, for example. If you're going to immediately go back to dance after you get better, So just an idea, because like I was sick last week.
Yeah. I
I
think
was
that's where
definitely
I
sick
got
last
it.
week. And
What'd you learn from your sickness?
I learned that even though I'm sick, things still need to be dealt with.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
So for me, it was like, okay, I'll do whatever I can within the means that I can do them. But it's also just reaffirming that, like, being able to work from home is such a blessing that I can just like walk from the bed to the office and just,
Yeah.
do something, which is good. But also, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It definitely pumped the brakes on certain things, but maybe it's just symbolically something that just needed to happen.
Did anything else cool happen to you this week?
This week, life kind of returned a little bit back to normal.
Oh,
Because, like, so there's a few things that have been solved this week that have been like weighing on my mind. One was the website client. That's fully done with now.
Oh,
Thank
really?
God. Yeah, that's fully.
How did that end up happening?
Oh, I just gave her a refund.
Oh, okay, that's
I
it.
gave her a refund. Yeah, and that was just a total loss. Is what it is.
Okay.
So that's dealt with. I had been parking my car on the street parking for a while because the apartment switched systems over, and then they're just like, oh yeah, we don't know if the reserved parking spot is still. You know what I'm saying? And so I had parked my car outside for, I felt like, what, like 2 months now, a month and a half. Oh my God.
Getting those steps in.
So now I can park back in the parking garage again, which is, thank God. And then
The biggest thing.
the biggest thing.
The car.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. We finally sold your car that's just been sitting on the street parking for like more than
Years.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
More since summer last year, just because you couldn't drive because it didn't have AC. And then it just sat outside. It got really cold, destroyed the battery, got a free one, replaced it. Now it worked, and then sold it last Thursday. Oh, those are like 3 big things that have been on my mind over the last 2 months.
And now they're dealt with.
And now they're officially like finally dealt with, and it's like a weight off my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
It's like and the thing is, it made it easier to deal with the other 2 things, with like the car and selling the car, because like we were in it together. The website stuff was like really difficult because like it's just me running an operation, and I just had to take the full hit on that, I guess, and just take the L, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But which would have made it easier to deal with if there was someone else like with me in my organization. But I guess maybe that was a lesson, is that this is what happens when you just have single member LLCs and you're just kind of just trying to try to bust out a dream. So that's just how it goes.
But it's okay. Yeah, we have a lot of other wins. Yeah, I no longer have my, was it 2000 Nissan Maxima?
It's a 2002 Nissan Maxima, yeah.
It was a good, cute car, just not practical in that the AC just always sucked and the door doesn't work. And yeah, it's going to a better home to a dad and his son. So yeah.
It already went. So.
Yeah, he sold it so fast through Facebook. So
yeah, that was. What's your fondest memory with? So here's a little bit of a backstory because like we met when you were driving that car, and I still had my car before it was modified or anything. But what was your fondest memory of that car? Like what's not fond. It doesn't have to be fondest.
Memory.
What's your strongest memory, whether good or bad, with that car?
Oh my God, I just remember getting it, in the summer of, like, a Texas summer. It was probably like 2002 or something like that, and it was already like 90 degrees, and I remember just driving it. I think I was just driving to a work thing. At the time, I was doing like freelance work, and I was going to different restaurants, and I just remember like being so tired after a shoot and driving it, and I had to make it to my next location. And the car just stopped, and I just had to like make sure and pray that and send good vibes to the car to turn on so I could get to my next place. And just being so hot and overstimulated and just like ready to just
crash it.
Yeah, crash it and down the dumps.
A little bit of a backstory. This is a 23-year-old car. It was fast for what it was.
It was pretty good.
It was just very old and outdated, and yeah, some of the things were a little janky in the car that needed to be fixed over time. Yeah. And the thing is, I remember driving with you in that car. The AC worked during the winter, but not during the summer.
And that's the worst part.
And I remember driving with you one time, and I don't know what it was, but I remember you got sick and we had to pull over.
I would get sick in that car because it was just so hot. Like, that's the only thing. Like, if we had this car in California or something where the weather is like 70 degrees, it wouldn't be so bad. But having a car that doesn't have working AC in Texas, and then in the winters when it's cold and the heater barely works, it's like the heater would turn on once I got to my destination. And it's like, bruh, this is really annoying.
And then the last event, so my fondest memory of the car was when we first started dating, when I was living on Skillman Street in those apartments. You had to park on the street parking that's on the other side where I lived because it's a gated community, and I was like all the way in the back. And I would, whenever you came over, I would like walk out there because I knew you were there, and then I would greet you, and that's the little race car you stepped out of every time. So that was my cute. That was like my
memory.
Nicest memory with the car.
Yeah.
The other memory was when you got sick and you almost had to throw up.
Because it was just so hot, and then I hated it.
And then our last memory together that I'm totally okay with never remembering again is when the car literally died because the battery was shit.
And it was freezing. It was like one of those random Texas winters in February or whatever, and the car just wouldn't work, and we just wanted to get some Dubai chocolate, and we just had to like awkwardly wait in the busiest highway underpass.
In Texas, the U-turns are in the same, like they're on your side of the street light, so you can make a U-turn, and we were under the underpass and the car literally died as we did the U-turn.
That's horrible.
And the thing is, you can't even put your emergency lights on because they're battery powered and the battery was broken. So we couldn't even like turn on. And then I couldn't get out of the car to like have people be like, yo, just, go. Because the door handle was broken from the inside. Yeah. And the only way to open it was from the outside. And I couldn't roll the window down because it was electric. And it was just like, I just remember like 4 primary issues all collided into one moment, and I was just so fed up.
The breaking point.
And that was the breaking point. That was the breaking point. I think a few weeks after that, I got a brand new battery, made sure it worked. It did work because I went there and they looked at the battery and they were like, yeah, the battery isn't even charging. I'm just like, yeah, but it's probably also because of that day that it got like -40 Fahrenheit like outside
it was
for like
so cold.
2 minutes, and then must have something killed the battery. But But yeah, so that happened, and
so no more Nissan.
So now that's officially sold, thank God.
Yeah.
The thing is, when I was selling the car, I remember I drove you to your dance class. I was like, I would come back to deal with the car, and then I would pick you back up again. And I was already just like I already had such just a long and shitty week of just dealing with shit. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna meet this buyer. They're coming literally an hour and a half away. I'm gonna talk to them. I don't know if they're gonna haggle the price or whatever. And I was just preparing myself for all these scenarios of how I would respond to each scenario, because if they wanted to lowball me in person, I would have just sent them back an hour and a half and I would have had no emotion about it. But the thing is, because I dropped you off, I drove back. It was literally 7:30. Within I think 5 minutes, they didn't even test drive the car. They signed all the agreements and stuff and the title and everything.
To make sure it was just there.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. Like they trusted that I was selling them a good car. But within like 5 to 10 minutes or so, the deal was done. And I was like, this was too easy. This was but the thing is, after the week that I've had, I was fully preparing for this to just be like another nuclear like conversation, like, of course. And then they ended up being really cool, and the dad was like, hey, I promise you I'm legit, you know what I'm saying? Just like, thanks for the reassurance. I made him sign the agreement anyway and all that stuff, and it was just like, that was too easy. We got our cash, and then I picked you up, and I picked you up just on time as well. And so, yeah,
It was nice.
that was a nice little oasis in the week that we've had. But yeah, so that's it.
Yeah. What else?
But other than that, I was editing our previous BB talk from last week, 9, and I remember we talked about the hotel thing, the internship that I had.
Oh yes.
And the reason I'm bringing that up is because there's actually a ghost story attached to it, if you would like to know.
Of course I would like to know. I love ghost stories and
Yeah.
conspiracies.
Yeah. So
etc.
I'm not gonna say which hotel it was on the property of the roller coaster park, but it was one of the hotels that was way in the back. And just from working there, you kind of just hear about rumors and like things. And I remember the thing. I also worked the night shift, right? So I would literally work from I think like 9 to like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or something like that. And so the small crew that I worked with, we just kind of hung out and uncovered the story that in that hotel, because there's a section of the hotel, there's like many different sections that are different vibes, right? There's like one that's like in a circle, there's one that's just in a line, and like stuff like that, right? So there's one of the sections of the hotel that we never booked guests to. We never sent them there. The main reasoning from management was because those rooms were not updated. They still had a lock and like a key, like a physical iron key.
Oh god.
That you had to like unlock the door, right? So stuff like that. So we never booked any guests there. So we uncovered this story that on the second floor of this part of the hotel, there were like back in like the early 1900s or whatever, there was this woman who apparently like killed herself in the bathtub or something.
Oh hell no.
And so I'm just gonna tell you what happened to us from the experience instead of telling you the story. Just know that supposedly that's what happened. And so I think it was like 2 or 3 a.m. or whatever. Me and like 2 other people working the night shift, and there was no traffic. Nobody had any like reason to go to the front desk, right? So me and these two coworkers went to this part of the floor. And first of all, I think you need to, I don't know if the door just opens or we had to get a key to access that part of it may have been locked or something, but I think we went there, we were able to access that second floor, and just for arbitrary numbers, let's say it was room 220, right? We went to the room 220, and at this point I had my phone out, right? And this was back in like 2014, summer of 2014. when smartphones were still like, I mean, we're what on like the iPhone like 4 or 5 or something, and I had a Windows phone, right? So there was no cloud or anything for that. So I was taking this video on my phone, and we're walking. We got to the door, and my coworker, basically, he knocked on the door, and he was like, knock knock, hello, ghost lady, and he knocked again, and there was nothing, right? And then we waited like another 5 seconds. It's like, you think we're gonna like experience anything? It's like, maybe I'll try one more time. So he knocked on the door again, and he was like, knock knock, hello. And all of a sudden you hear just this blood curdling scream from the bathroom.
You're lying.
Because we saw the layout of where the bathroom is in the room and stuff, and it was like, if this was the door, you would open the door, and to the left is the bathroom. We heard the scream from the bathroom inside the room, and it was definitely a woman's scream. And we all of a sudden just got like, we got the heebie-jeebies, and we ran the fuck out of there. And once we got back to the office, like we were just like,
Oh god.
holy shit, what the fuck was that? And I was like, I got it on video, let's listen to it. And so I pulled up my phone. We watched the video together, right? And while we were watching, it was like us, walking down the hallway, going to the door, knocking on the door, right? But you don't hear the scream in the video.
Of course you don't.
You don't hear it. It didn't. The
didn't pick it up.
phone didn't pick it up. So all it looked like was we knocked on the door, no audio, and then all of a sudden us running away. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh my lord.
that
was crazy.
was the ghost story attached to that hotel experience.
Oh, I'm glad.
Because
you
I
shared
remember
that.
last week when I was talking about it, like I was like, I was in such a fog because I was still sick and stuff.
Me
I
right
couldn't
now.
think clearly, and like I wasn't expressing myself the way that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I just told the hotel story of the internship, and that's it. But that was like the craziest story that has actually happened to me in person.
That's awesome.
When it comes
though.
to like ghost stories. The other thing that we talked about is, remember when we were at Isa's birthday and I had met all these like younger people. I wanted to know what they valued, because I think it's so cool that they just see life through their lens, and they're like, the things that they value with like relationships and friends and starting new jobs and stuff. Like, I think that's really cool of them to be able to still like experience that, because for me, and probably you as well, that beginning moments of post graduation and stuff like was a while back, for us at least. For me, it was like a long time ago. But I just think it's very cool that the things that the young people value are like fun things. Like they're not talking about politics, you know, and that's amazing. They still have not like rose colored glasses, but like the younger people are still, I don't want to say like blind to what's happening in the world. That's just not what they're focusing on. Because they're focusing on friendships, relationships. They're focusing on their own life.
Their social life.
They're still, their brain is still in the process of fully developing. You know what I'm saying? Until they connect enough dots to where they have enough information to have worldly opinions, like we do, for example. And and I just think I have a big respect for that start.
Yeah.
A part of me misses that part of my knowledge base, because like with everything that I know now, with the state of the world and everything, it like the outlook on life seems a little bit more bleak.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting, and not because things are getting worse and worse, even though they kind of looking like they are, but I'm starting to maybe understand what my grandma said like many months ago. And I think I can't remember what it exactly had to do with, but I was talking to my grandma on Facebook Messenger. And I was like asking her, I was like, how is everything? How is life? And she said, well, life kind of just is what it is. And, there's something missing. And I'm just like, there's something missing. And I don't know if it's like the old age or whatever, but she basically said that like she feels like something is missing, something is missing in the world,
Jesus?
And probably, yeah. But now it's just like I kind of get what's missing. Like what's missing is
the newness,
the idea of having things to discover, and having a fulfillment that comes from experiencing things. because
Yeah.
now that we know what we know, this is also a reason why the ultra intelligent or the ultra wealthy or the ultra successful, they also experience depression and like negative emotions as much as everybody else, but just to more intense degree, because when you know everything, there's nothing to discover, right?
Yeah. I have a question for
Yeah.
you. What do you think life is about if you had to sum it in one word? Do you think it's about happiness, self-discovery? Like why do you think people themselves? Like what are they missing?
That's a good question. So to answer your question with one word, I'd say it's learning.
Learning?
We're here to learn because and then to answer the other question, why do people kill themselves? The thing is, people kill themselves because they have free will. And when people and the thing is, like, I can speak on this because when I was 10 or 11, actually this is another crazy like story that I can tell, but when I was 10 or 11, I was like severely depressed and I simply just didn't want to be here, but I didn't know how to like self or that even was an option. So I kind of just suffered with a depression for like a few years until I guess it just got better. There's reasoning to that, which I'll get into. But the reason people commit is because um, they have the free will to be able to terminate their contract whenever they want to. And that contract is the contract you make before you incarnate. So basically, what happens when you die, you go through this process of you see your soul family, like even if you're on your deathbed, as you're in the process of dying, which really, what is that? It's hypoxia. It's when oxygen gets depleted in the brain and the brain starts shutting down. That's the death process. Old age is when people die of old age, they die of hypoxia, which is lack of oxygen to the brain, right? What happens is, as you're going through the death process, first of all, you meet your soul family and all the people that have passed. They'll probably be in the room with you and gently guide you back up out of your physical body because your journey is complete, right? What happens shortly thereafter is you go through a life review. And the best way I would visualize this is with the video on YouTube called The Egg by Kurzgesagt, which is it's like a German animation company. And they made a really good representation of what they think what happens after death. And so what happens after you basically die is you have your um, life review, right? And it's not where your heart gets weighed against the feathers. Like, these things were only told this way to give a visual representation to make us understand, because the vastness of the universe is such a great
It's
like
hard to
wealth of knowledge.
comprehend.
We can't comprehend it. It's like an ant trying to comprehend that we have cars and we drive around and stuff. They simply cannot do that because they're in a lower dimension than we are.
Yeah.
Same thing how we can't fully understand the fourth and fifth dimension, even though our emotions are sixth dimensional energies, right? Stuff like that, right? Like, even though we can't comprehend these things, they play into our life, like. So when you die, you're greeted by everybody, you have your life review, and you basically talk with your account specialist, right? Your account manager, which in this case you can call them guardian angel, soul family, God, whatever synonym you want to use, right? And they ask you, have you learned what you set out to learn? Because once you are in spirit form again, you understand why you incarnated in the first place, because you go from a state of not knowing anything, which is what this is, to a state of knowing everything again. The reason why we forget when we incarnate, by the way, is because if we already knew everything, there would be nothing new to discover. That's why we forget when we incarnate on this earth, right? That being said, when you have your life review and you say, yes, I learned this, then your accounts manager asks you, what do you want to learn next? And then hypothetically, let's say I want to learn that I want to learn about contracts. I want to learn about, you know, I don't know if this is the exact way that they do it in the afterlife, but like for example, to visually represent.
Well, I have questions once you're.
Yeah, sure. Once you decide, okay, this is what I want to learn, you will go through that life and do all the things you need to do to fulfill these things, right? When you basically like decide to cut your contract short and say, I don't want to do this anymore, which is the physical representation of like basically, like taking or whatever, then essentially what happens is, because you have free will, you have the ability to just terminate your contract here on Earth. You don't have to be here. You can go back to spirit whenever you want to, you know? And to some people, their minds and brains get so corrupted that at some point that's the only solution that they see, is that they don't want to be here anymore. That being said, will they have learned what they wanted to in this lifetime? We don't know. Maybe they came here to do that in order to see what everyone else's reaction is like or what it causes. Because the thing is, when people kill, they don't, they kill everyone around them, right? Because it doesn't just affect you. It affects you in the sense that you've and blah blah blah, and now you're back in the other realm or whatever. But everyone that's still on this earth has to suffer the consequences of what that person did. And suffer is the best word for this, because there is no reality in which that is ever a good thing. So you had questions?
Yeah, like I guess to make sense for people who don't see life that way, right? Like
Sure.
they think that it's not like that at all. Because I remember I had a roommate in college, and she questioned my belief. She was like, "How do you believe there's a God when all this bad shit is happening?" I was like, "That's very true." And I was like, "How do I believe that?" But I think for me, as I have gone on my spiritual walk, what resonates to me the most is like the karma and the fact that there has to be maybe other past lives or things, because that's the only way I could make sense in my mind. Like for example, like I don't like mean to talk about this because like okay, recently in Frisco, did you hear about that track stabbing thing?
Yeah.
It's like you have basically a situation where, these two boys are at, an innocuous track meet, and then it's something as simple as like one of them telling him to move, and then he stabs the other one because he didn't
Over a
move
parking space.
or some whatever the matter is.
Yeah.
And it's like I could see how someone could look at that and be like, how is there a God if like shit like this just happens out of the blue, But would you say maybe with that thinking, it's like maybe they had like a contract before coming here that this was gonna happen?
Yep. Exactly, because two people don't just ever arbitrarily kill themselves, right? Or like kill each
One
other.
another.
Yeah.
Over something stupid.
They had, because it happened for a reason. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like that karmic tie.
Karmic tie, that's the word.
That karmic tie between those two people. They came here on this earth in order to see if they can resolve it. Because that's actually a really good question. Like, why is there bad stuff that happens on earth? Like at all?
Yeah,
like if there is a God.
This is how why people doubt the existence of God, because of all the bad shit happening.
Yeah. How I would say it, and this is probably going to sound completely like ludicrous, but that's literally how it is, and like how I would explain it. But bad things happening in the world is a direct sign of God's love, because we are made in the image of God, right? We are made in the image of creation itself. We are creation itself, experiencing itself in like multiple, not in unity, but in duality, right? Multiple pieces separated, right? The reason why bad things happening in the world is a direct correlation that God's love exists fully is because if we are made in the image of creation itself, and we are unconditionally loved by creation, which is what we are unconditionally loved. We are loved so unconditionally that you have the free will to believe that God does not love you.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to believe that God's unconditional love, God's unconditional love is so unconditional that he allows you to believe that bad things are just here. He allows you to believe that everything is terrible. God, creation loves you so much that they allow you to feel like there is no God. That's how much you are loved.
So you can discover God's love.
Exactly. You are loved so unconditionally, in fact, that you have the free will to do whatever you want, whether you want to cut your contract short, whether you like to help other people, whether you decide to do good or do bad. At the end of the day, good and bad are just subjective. Everything is neutral. And when we say everything is neutral, that includes like technically murder is neutral. It's not moral, but it's neutral in the grand scheme of creation itself. Nothing is inherently good or bad. We decide to give it meaning. That's the overarching idea here. So because we are loved so unconditionally that we are able to even think about the idea that we are not loved, the reason why bad things happening is a sign of God's true unconditional love, is because in order for us to understand, because here's how duality works. What is cold?
Something that's not hot.
Right, yes. Like, would you say that negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit is cold? Would you say that 60 degrees Fahrenheit is cold? So how do we know that? How do we know that something is cold based on just those numbers? Because if we didn't have hot, if we didn't know what hot was, we wouldn't know what is cold, right? So the idea here is that
The contrast of everything.
yes. So unity, where we come from, duality here on earth where we are, duality, like two things, right? We have hot and cold. How do we know what hot is? Because we know what cold is. Like, and these things are not decided by numbers, right? Like you could say that zero degrees Kelvin is technically cold because that's the coldest thing on earth, right? But like the only reason we know what is hot and cold is because we know the other thing, right? Which means that one gives meaning to the other. Which means we know what cold is because we know what hot is. We know what left is because we know what right is. We know what is up because we know what is down. We know what is good because we know what is bad, right? So if you didn't know what one side of the equation was, and you just had good, you wouldn't like it would be neutral because there's nothing to compare it to.
So you're saying that we need to experience suffering in order to really understand and appreciate God's unconditional love.
Exactly, yes. But also the bad thing happening is a sign of God's unconditional love.
Because we're experiencing the opposite of it.
Because you have to understand the bad or the negative or the other side before you experience exactly what you want, what you love, what you like, what you so on and so forth, right? Because the bad events happening in life give meaning to all the good events happening in life. And the only way we would know what is good is if we know what is bad, right?
Period.
Now, that news story definitely affects, the families that are with him. It doesn't necessarily affect us because we don't know them. You know what I'm saying? That is their journey. It was just televised to us on the news. We technically have nothing to do with this. You know what I'm saying? That's their journey. That's their soul family contract that they decided to do. Now, like murders and killings and all that stuff, I mean, yeah, that's obviously something that is not good. We as humanity can label that and say that is not good, right? Now, the way I look at that situation is,
I'm listening, sir. Oh, wait, actually, yeah, go ahead.
what if in a previous lifetime the roles were switched?
Well, that's what the comments are saying. They're saying if the roles were switched, people would be like, I don't know. That's the main takeaway that I saw on TikTok is like people are trying to make it a race issue, and they're like, yeah, if it were flipped, it would be like, I don't even know what they're saying, but
Yeah, but they're also completely asleep because it's not a race issue.
yeah,
There's no,
that's what they're
there are
saying.
no races. Like there are no other races. There's not black people. There's not brown people. There's not white people. There is no races. There's just one race, and that's the human race, right? So yeah, we just do it based off the color of their skin because it's easy to identify, and seeing is believing. Sure, I get it. But like at the end of the day, in a previous lifetime, maybe the roles were switched, and the guy that got killed the other guy in a previous lifetime, and now they
Oh, sorry.
and now they had come back to see if they can resolve it, and then the guy ended up just fulfilling his karma, or this was like a brand new thing. Who knows? We don't know. It's not even for us to know. All we see is a news story, and it doesn't affect us at all in the sense that, like, yeah, well, yes, we see it on the news, and like, yes, now we're aware that that has happened. You know, it's difficult to look at it and be like, oh, that's a sign of God's true love. But at the same time, what if the guy that got killed, fulfilled his purpose on earth, and that's all that was needed? You know what I'm saying? And who knows? I don't know. It's not for us to speculate either way.
Yeah.
But what I do know for sure is that the evils and the bad things that happen in the world is a direct sign that God's love exists, because otherwise we wouldn't know what is good.
Right.
You know?
Like that's my theory, coming from my spiritual, not background, but I believe that after we pass, there will be in some sort of like unity consciousness where there's like unconditional love, things of that nature. And it's like, I think the reason why in this incarnation we experience things like racism, difference in politics, all these things that divide us, it's so that we could experience the contrast of the love that is waiting for us after this lifetime.
That is also true.
But
That's
yeah.
also true, because the more unloving situations you experience in this life, the more you will appreciate it when you finally found it. Right? It's also like the reason why like our relationship is so good is because I had been basically single for so long that I know for sure what I'm going to find when I find the right one. You know what I'm saying? That's really it.
Yeah.
But it's really just because one gives meaning to the other. You can't have one side without having the other side. If a society was only good, there would be nothing to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Because humans would create situations that are not good in order to redefine what actually is good, right? So because you could say, like, for example, people that like win the lottery, right? We would objectively look at that and be like, that's good. This person won the lottery. That could also be like the worst thing that could have ever happened to their life.
Like in Lost.
Like in Lost.
That guy.
Because people that like win the lottery, like I remember there was like this story like a long time ago. Somebody won the lottery, and it was somebody who didn't understand money, didn't know what it was, and immediately started just giving it right back to the economy, buying cars, getting houses. I think at one point he gold plated his nuts or something stupid like that, and he ended up dying. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
So then you wouldn't say anymore that, oh, winning the lottery for some people isn't the best thing that could have happened to them,
Some people are not meant to win the lottery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some people are just, well, but everybody wants to experience
Winning.
opposites and, reactions and stuff. So, but yeah, that's basically what I think. I think that, like, because bad things happen, it's direct evidence that God's love exists.
Yeah. It sounds like really morbid, but I wish I could somehow interview people that have committed suicide successfully just to ask them what was it that was missing. Well, there's something a story that sticks to me. I don't want to misquote it, but it's actually something that happened in the Plano, Dallas area. But it was this, I want to say he was like an Indian kid in like the Plano ISD schools, but long story short, he, I think, convinced his younger brother, to kill their parents, and both of them to commit suicide. And there was, what's the word? Like when you leave a note. Yeah, something about why he did it, and he was saying that something along the lines of like, I after reflecting on my decision and coming to this point, I realized that the purpose of life is to be happy, and I won't experience that. But I don't understand why he family. But I think a lot of people that do commit suicide, they have obviously different answers. But I think if there's a lack of happiness and fulfillment, then that's a big reason why people end their contract early. But I would like to know more.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because that's interesting.
You know, the story that comes to mind for me is a guy who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Because you don't really survive jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, because even though because the things, for the longest time I thought, okay, if you're going terminal velocity, like as fast as you could possibly go, and you hit the water, I would think if you just go like this and you go like a pencil, that
You'd be fine.
you'd be fine, and you would just like you're diving.
I know, I never
just
understood
dive,
how that worked.
But then I learned that surface tension on water is a thing.
Oh, that's how you die. It's like a shock to your system.
Because you know this, there's this fluid, it's called Newtonian fluid, that if you punch it, it's hard, but if you go really softly like this, your hand falls into the fluid.
Like water.
You ever seen it like that? It's a very interesting fluid that the harder you hit it, the more tension there is. But if you just go like this very slowly, your hand sinks through the fluid. So it's exactly like that. Just with water, it's not as apparent like that. Water is a little bit more the molecules are spread a little further apart. But the thing is, even if you were to seemingly dive into the water, after a certain amount of speed, the surface tension is like a brick wall. So if you were to just if you go to this and you're about to basically fall in the water, imagine jumping off a skyscraper and doing that and hitting the concrete ground.
That's horrible.
Because at a certain speed, the surface tension of water doesn't break.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, but the story that comes to mind for me is this guy who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. He said he was just sitting there on the bridge for a while, and he was like, okay, I'm just gonna jump. And then the second his hands let go of the rail and he was falling, all he was thinking about was, I want to live, I want to live.
Damn.
And he ended up surviving.
The jump?
The jump, yes.
How'd they get him?
Somehow, some way. I don't know.
Maybe someone on the boat or something.
The thing is, a lot of the times, God also likes to intervene, because
divine intervention.
Divine intervention, because, and this is a theory that I have about how dense our world is, because we're in the third dimension, and spirit is fifth, sixth dimensional, higher up. The reason why it's easier to manifest when you're a higher consciousness, a more powerful being in spirit, for example, is because your spirit is in a higher dimension. And basically what that means is, when you're in a higher dimension, the lower you go in, let's say we're third dimension, fourth, fifth, right? The lower you go, the more dense the molecules are, right? So the reason why emotions, for example, are so powerful in manifesting things, for example, when you're having an amazing day and you feel good, everything just seems like it's going good, everything's happening, that's great, everything happens easier. But when you're in a shitty mood, there's resistances, hurdles to jump over, things just seem less harder, easy. You know what I'm saying? It's because our emotions are on a higher dimension, and the reason why it's easier to manifest in the higher dimensions is because consciousness can interact in that realm easier, because the molecules are spread further apart. So consciousness can weave itself in and out of molecules much easier the further they're spread apart. And divine intervention, when God basically does something that you can't explain, because there are miracles that happen in the world, right? What could have happened is, as he hit the water or something, maybe spirit or divine intervention or account manager or whatever somehow figured out a way to make that pocket of water just less resistant for, you know what I'm saying? Just enough to where they would break bones but not die. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. The crazy thing is, I think the the way that we will evolve spiritually is by understanding that things like miracles and divine intervention actually exist and is exactly how life is set up. You know, there are no coincidences. There is divine intervention. There are miracles. These things happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no such thing as a coincidence of, oh, this happened and this seemingly also happened. And, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no such thing as coincidences, I don't believe. So, the second he thought he wanted to live, every cell in his body, every fiber of his being was screaming that he wanted to live. And when you're subjected to basically God at that point, you're basically a passenger in a car that's going towards a wall. You're a passenger, right? Divine intervention will always correspond to how strong your manifestations is, right? And so that's why I think that divine intervention works. But also, if something is wanted strongly enough, like, life and free will not stand in the way of that, right? So
Cool. Awesome. I think that's it for me.
really,
Unless you have anything else you want to say.
no, I would just, my biggest wish is for people to understand that, like, coincidences don't exist and life is full of miracles, and these things, like, when you think of somebody and then all of a sudden they call you 2 minutes later, that shit is not a coincidence.
That's happened to me multiple
Because, yeah,
times.
because we're all connected. You know what I'm saying?
We're
Everything is
all
connected.
a oneness that
Yeah.
we will experience. If not now, if you don't experience that oneness now in this life, you're going to experience it afterlife.
Basically, yeah.
So just embrace it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like our soul all came from creation, which is basically, imagine just an ocean of water.
Yeah, and we're all
but
a drop.
We're just a drop, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the reason why we feel so disconnected from it is because when we decided to incarnate in this body, our grounding cord basically got connected to our pineal gland, which is why when we dream and there's remote viewers and people that can do all these cool things, like, if you were to basically astral project and look behind you, you would see basically a cord of light going back to your pineal gland, and that's how your soul knows to go back to its body, you know?
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, the only thing I wish is, like, I wish people would understand that life is a miracle and life is nothing but divine creation itself.
Yeah.
And it experiencing itself, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, like what I forgot the statistic, but it's like there's like a 1 in a trillion chance of you even being born right now or something like that.
yeah. No, okay, yeah, 1,000%. I'm glad you brought that up. Because like Gary Vee would say, you're the one sperm that made it out of trillions of sperm. Like,
That is true though.
like,
And the egg had to
sure,
fertilize
I get it. I see how you could look at the numbers of this, how many sperm go into the one egg, blah, blah, blah. I get that. I get the probability of that. The thing is, there is not a 1 in a trillion chance of you being you. You already were going to be you before that egg fertilized. The sperm have nothing to do with it. They're just there to make sure that this experience can be had. That's it. You know, there's, like, people that say, you're a 1 in a trillion of being alive. No, you're always going to be alive. You're always going to. Your soul is not destructible. It's indestructible, right? Like, so people that say, "Oh, you're the one sperm that made it," no,
Like me.
because the soul doesn't bond to the body until 49 days after conception, when the pineal gland is formed. That's when the soul binds to the body. 49 days after, not 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 at birth or at conception. No, like, you're not killing. You're technically not. I don't believe that. Like, I believe what I'm about to say. I believe, but I don't think this isn't a human person until this embryo has a soul. which it doesn't until 49 days when the pineal gland is formed. Once the soul fuses with the pineal gland, now that's a person that's consciously this little embryo. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it's just a shell. Because you can't you can't be in an egg if the egg is only halfway formed. You know what I'm saying? Like once the shell is fully formed, then you can fill it with life.
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh, you're a person that concept. No, this thing is just a clump of cells. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's true for conception. I for one though, I think when you give birth to a baby, that's like a whole baby.
1,000%. Yes.
I'm not gonna do
I'm just
anything to a
saying.
baby.
I'm saying the baby is conscious after 49 days after conception.
Okay,
That's
that
all I'm
makes
saying.
sense.
That's yes. Anytime before that, it's
So
just
baby's cooked.
yeah. Anything before that is just a few cells. That's it.
Yeah,
You know?
I think so too.
It's just a
But
few cells that kind of look like a dinosaur, but not really.
yeah, but your body, your choice to me. Yeah. Mhm.
Sure. But yeah, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
it's like you're not one in a trillion. You're 100% going to be alive. You know
Because that's what God wants you to experience.
exactly. You know
You asked for this experience.
exactly. Everything that is happening in your life, everything that has happened to you,
And will
is
happen.
happening to you, and that will happen to you. You asked for before you
Came here.
came here and essentially signed the contract of your incarnation. That's basically what it is, right?
So make the best out of it.
Yeah, or just realize that when bad things happen,
Embrace it.
it's like welcome it.
You give it meaning.
Welcome it and give it good meaning. Give it like when something bad happens to you, like it's cliche to say like everything has a silver lining, but everything does have a silver lining, you know? Like everything, and the thing is I don't even like using the word silver lining. Everything has a positive meaning that you can attach to it, you know? Like I don't want to like give an example that's like morbid or anything, but like everything that's bad that happens to you is a reason or going to become a reason why your life in the future gets better. That's how that always is. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't have up without down. You can't have like you can't have sun without clouds. You can't have you can't have sun without a little rain, you know? You wouldn't know. Like if living in Texas, it's like this is the first week where it's like really cloudy this year. You know what I'm saying? But like in like Texas, where it's like 330 days of sunshine throughout the entire year, how could you even appreciate winter? How could you even appreciate, not that when all you have is just sun, just sun, just sun. And then Michigan is like it's 70 days out of the year are sunny. So it's like just clouds, just clouds, just clouds. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the reason why you know and you have a preference for the thing is because you've experienced the opposite of it. That's really what it is. But
Cool. Love it.
I just I just wish people saw it more that way. That negative things are actually good things in disguise, So
I think people will learn through. I think it's like we lead by example. So it's like whatever you experience that may be perceived as bad, if you choose to make that a good thing, I think that's how it inspires change within others. But of course, that person it's their duty to observe it that way.
yeah, true. And then I also wish people just would forgive more. And the thing is, when I say forgive, most of the time I'm not saying you should forgive when it comes to like other people. 80% of the time, people just have to forgive themselves,
I think that's what Jesus' message was.
Well, fantastic. I didn't even know that it was his message. But like, the thing is, it's like, because when you forgive yourself, you give yourself enough grace to be able to understand the other side. And you basically cut that karmic tie within yourself, Because like, let's say you something bad happens and in your mind you're just blaming the other person, you're blaming the situation, you're blaming everything around you, when 99% of the time you have to blame yourself and then forgive yourself for letting that basically hold your life that way,
Makes sense.
So that's what I wish more people would understand. But
Okay.
hey, everyone's on their own journey, and at the end of the day, nobody has to listen to any words of wisdom at all. You know what I'm saying? Nobody has to do anything. But it's our job to make our life the best. So.
Period. All right.
So yeah.
See y'all next week. Today is the White Lotus finale. I'm excited about that, but yeah, we'll recap it next week.